Hello, everybody. Today is Tuesday, February 18th. It's about 7:15 Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee. So we got a lot going on today. We got a lot going on with DOGE. We got a lot going on with some of the confirmations. A couple smaller ones got through, but tonight we have Kash Patel is his cloture vote. Okay, so with the confirmation vote probably being tomorrow. So far we've really had only one. I think happened twice. One time where someone voted yes for cloture, but no on the whatever on the actual nomination vote. So I think you're looking at, he'll get through. I'm thinking again. I'm thinking 52-48, the same as RFK, maybe 51-49, but we'll see how it goes. Um, I don't think he's going to have much of an issue. I thought he would be the least out of the three when it comes to neocon type and establishment Republican concerns, to be honest with you. So that was on there. So also a couple updates, something I came across out in Pennsylvania. Looks like 89,000 is the number that GOP registrations are behind Dems in Pennsylvania. That's the narrowest. I mean, you go back 2012, it was hundreds of thousands. Okay, advantage, So that's a good sign and so forth. Now there were a lot of cleanup after the election on the voter rolls, particularly in January, and nationwide Republicans netted something like 70, 80,000 votes on Democrats nationwide from the cleanups within the states that they had. So that's the case. You need those bad voter rolls to match a vote count. I mean, that's it. And if you get rid of verifications and who's counting the ballots and all the stuff that we all know about, so that's the resistance, to some of these law changes and so forth, and the resistance to cleaning up these rolls. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on that. So that'll lead me to uh, my first piece today is Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs just vetoed a bill that would have given the state same day election results and sped up vote counting. The bill mirrored Florida's system. So, why? I just said it. You need ballots. See, now here in Arizona, particularly in Maricopa County, where 2/3 of the voters live, okay, they have voting centers. So like you get your card here. You live in whatever your town, you vote at your local school or your local firehouse, and that's your area of vote. Maybe you go to a civic center and you vote early. That's open. That's like how it's done by where I live, and that's similar when I used to live up in New York. But the they have voting centers. As long as you're resident and voting anywhere in Maricopa, you can go to any one of these voting centers, and you could vote weeks early. There's no way. You need to. The ballots come in, you verify the ballot, you stick it in the box, done. Okay? Florida counts them before that time. They actually start to keep a tally, okay, of it. And it's under lock and key. That's how they can do those dumps on election night of the early vote. Okay? As it comes in, or if you're nervous about that and leaks and someone's saying someone's ahead and you don't want that, okay, fine. Start counting that morning or maybe the day before. So the Monday, you're doing the early ballot. So it's done by then. And then all you have left are the true absentee ballots, the provisional ballots coming in. But that's the key. Why wouldn't you want that? Because you got to know how many votes you need, especially in a close election. It was useless because in Arizona it was a big win for Trump. Don't worry about it. In the midterm and the gubernatorial race, it's going to happen in 26. And Hobbs is running for re-election. She wants to be able to know we're 10,000 votes short. Let's see what we got. Keep counting. Where we get those ballots from? Well, these are the ballots that those guys kind of brought in, and it's filled with the bad addresses and bad and a bunch of people from the nursing homes we got, and a bunch of homeless people who are matched up against, John Smith, even though he moved 2 years ago to Michigan and whatever. And that's the games they can play. So that's why you veto that. Okay, it's not access to voting. You can vote in some states. You can vote in freaking September. Get out of town. So, moving on. I wanted to jump on this. Here we go. So, temporary restraining order filed by 14 states against Elon Musk and DOGE has been denied by the United States District Court. So that was breaking news this afternoon. So 14 commies from blue states and AGs filed stop DOGE. Okay, I've said it before, and they lost. That's the key about it. Good. They said no. The judge said there was insufficient evidence. No, crap. It's a very simple concept. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The executive branch is given Article 2 power. They give it and rested it with the President of the United States. And the reason for that is because he's the only one elected in the executive branch. He's the only one accountable to the people. They didn't want rogue bureaucracies. They wanted the president in charge. Then you have two co-equal branches. The Supreme Court makes sure something's constitutional when a law is challenged. And then Congress passes the laws and his power of the purse. The president signs them into laws. These agencies, most of which are created by acts of legislation passed by Congress and signed into law by the president, he can run it. Okay? Just like a CEO of a company says he has $50 million for a project. Okay? Why did you spend $60 million? Why did you only spend $40 million? What are we going to do with the extra $10 million? Give me your receipts. I want to make sure it was done correctly where it was supposed to go. Okay? That's what these do. Now remember, we do baseline budgeting. So if they, that the United States used to do it for years, decades. If a department spent $100 billion, inflation was 2%, $102 billion, that's our starting point. Let's ask for $105. Well, what do you spend it on? What do you do? How do you go? No. It's why you see commercials at the end of the year. All these ad council, Department of Health and Human Service, they got to spend their money so they can justify more money. Meanwhile, they're pumping money at the door to NGOs and their buddies, and the money funneled back through PAC. That's what USAID was. Big laundering operation. And we now see what Musk is doing in Social Security. I mean, Trump in his press conference today was going through. Like, you got someone 300 years old who got a Social Security check. What? Thousands of people. It's way more than the population that's retirement age, eligible over age 59 and a half, or sorry, that's retirement age, 62. Okay, over 62. Okay, you add it all up. Where are all those checks going to? Who knows? Maybe it's going to a name, but is it going to someone's address and someone's milking the system? I don't know, but we need to know. The fact of the matter is we're supposed to spend X, we're spending Y. That gap, not only is it the job of the president and to appoint who he wants to investigate it within the federal government, it's his duty and responsibility as the elected person accountable to the taxpayers and the U.S. citizens. And that's what he's doing. So it's just that's why I say ignore it, because it's just insane. Read the Constitution. Try it. 1, 2, 3. That's the articles, that is. So, so I was kind of glad the court did that. It's nice to see some wins. If you remember when Trump was first, a lot of it's because they're serious. They come out. They were organized, ready to go. Okay, and they knew they were. I could tell by interviews. I could tell by people working behind the scenes that were involved, like Russ Vogt and everybody, and a lot of guests that were on War Room and things I were hearing, that they were ready to go. And he learned. Trump last time wasn't a politician. He didn't know. He trusted the Republican Party. He shouldn't have done that. He's brought his own people now. He brought in his own people he wants. They don't have to agree on everything, especially if it's not a job. You can have someone that do screw in this office, but that's not the office he's going to. Is that area where we're discussing, right? I have a medical, RFK, he wouldn't put into a position that he, like EPA, he wouldn't put him there. Okay, or he wouldn't put him in like a position where, because of past comments he said, maybe gun control, that would have jurisdiction over that. But you put him in this area where you agree with him, then it's fine. Okay? So he's got these right people in there, people who've been loyalists, and loyalty's key, because they're not going to go back against you and backstab you. Who wants somebody who is going to go against you? Whether you're a CEO, President of the United States, commander of a military unit, or small business owner. You want your employees stealing from you? No, you got to trust the people underneath you, because you want to trust them to deliver the agenda that you promised when you ran for president. Put those people in there. And that's what he's doing. And it is perfectly legal, and it's his responsibility. And it's about time the court know it. And that's, he said, they didn't hit any kind of evidence to any kind of legal threshold to put a block to this, because there is none. Period. So moving on. Now, with all this steamrolling going on and how quickly DOGE is moving and how quickly these EOs are going, we're keeping the Democrats off balance. A matter of fact, one of the high Google searches in the area are defense attorneys for fraud, defense attorneys for this. Why? Because all these criminals and the laundering operation known as Washington, D.C., through NGOs to the PACs, etc., they're under assault. And a lot of these people are going to be exposed, or they have ideological differences and they want out. But they're starting to drop like flies because we're keeping this going. It's like a waiter with the top spinning. You know, it just, the whole thing spins around. Yeah, and the Democrats are launching lawsuits, but they're having a hard time keeping up. So here we go. Let's start with, no, this is perfect thing today. Breaking. Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. says nothing is off limits in America's chronic disease investigation. Nothing is going to be off limits. Whatever belief or suspicion I have expressed in the past, I'm willing to subject them all to the scrutiny of unbiased science. Now let's go into RFK. I haven't gone into him much, but I was a big fan. I remember when I actually mentioned RFK when a guy who worked for Americans Prosperity came to my house to do a survey pre-primaries. And I told him my biggest issue was the authoritarian control of the administrative state, bureaucracy, D.C. It's lock in with corporate America, international institutions. That was my number one key issue. And I mentioned, I don't care if we have to have a little bit of a center or left wing populist kind of coalition to break that down with a hammer. Okay? And that's what RFK and Tulsi do. So, RFK. Okay? Let's talk about it. He's not against vaccines. Period. It's not. What he wants to know is basic things that everybody should know. Okay? Now, the Democrats who used to be, you know, in the press to ask questions. I grew up in the 80s. I was a kid. I remember watching the movie The Goonies. Chunk was the fat kid. He ain't fat by today's standards. Very few fat people walking around. Okay? Chronic diseases. Very few people had chronic diseases. Okay? People were thin. What happened? I didn't even know what autism was. I didn't know any kids with allergies. Every kid's allergic to peanuts and this fungus, and he's allergic to that, and he can't have this. And this kid's so fat he can't walk through a door. And they have this neurological disease, and they have this depression, and they have this disorder. What happened? Well, officially, we don't know. But there seems to be no desire from the establishment to find out these things. And why is that? Could it be the money? Could it be that every time there's a new disease or a new problem, the big pharma comes up with a medicine and is in bed with the regulatory agency that is supposed to regulate them, right? I go work for the FDA. When I'm done with my 20 FDA, take my pension, I leave, I become a lobbyist to work for a big pharmaceutical company. Or the same thing inverse. I live in the same neighborhoods. My kids go to the same schools, the same colleges, and it is very easy to do that. And that is what happened. That's actually a very fascistic definition of when corporations and the government work together for an either ideological agenda to better self-serve each other. Either way, that's what it is. Okay, so that's what's going on. What do we know? We know that the vaccine schedule was changed dramatically in the late 1880s. See, we've studied, is this vaccine safe? Okay. Control group, double-blind study. Okay, this one and this. We monitor it for 5 years, and then it goes public, and blah, blah, blah. Has there been a comprehensive study about, well, what happens if you take all these all together within a 3-year period? Never been done. What happens if we take this within a shorter period of time? This one, and this one within 3. Is it safe to take the COVID shot, the flu shot, and the pneumococcal pneumonia shot all within like a month, 3 weeks? We don't know. They didn't study. But people are just, and I got COVID 4 times. Did you die? No. Then why are you taking this thing? Oh, I had pneumonia a couple times in the past. Do you really need that vaccine? Well, it says age 50, maybe you stay in better health, okay, and see what happens, even though you can treat it, even if you get it at the beginning. And a lot of times people get pneumonia after getting something else sick. But anyway, But these are things we need to know. And I've read enough studies overseas and abroad that are very difficult to find, even in publications you'd be shocked, like Nature magazine, that really make you ha ha. And I'm a numbers dude, so I look at things and I chart things. Wow, vaccine schedule changed here, autism rates go up, obesity rates go up. Oh yeah, tobacco companies started buying food companies after the big lawsuits in the 80s and 90s. Ooh, same kind of charts: obesity, chronic diseases, depression, SSRI drugs. How about 75 to 80 million? Think about it. The entire population of Germany is on an SSRI. That's the equivalent of how many people in the United States are on SSRIs. What the hell's going on? Can't ask questions, so you insult their feelings. Okay, well, they shouldn't be like that. It's like the idea of fat shaming. Believe me, it is not a genetic thing to have 5% of your population or 10% of your population obese to make it 30, 35 in 20 years. It's not genetic. It would happen over time. There is a cause and effect. It's like excess since COVID. Okay, we had a huge gap of deaths from COVID, even though it's a question of how we mark the deaths with COVID versus from COVID. Okay, but when those COVID people, okay, weren't dying, that number should come back down. It didn't. Why? No one's studying that. But you can chart it right about 6 months after the rollout of the COVID vaccine. Does that prove it? No. That's anecdotal or what's the word I'm looking for? Correlated. Okay, it's correlated. But to me, that's enough to red flag it and study it, especially if you are the Department of Health and Human Services, the Secretary of, because it's your job, apparently, to keep America healthy, kind of informed. Believe me, I'm not a banner. Okay, I know processors. I stay away from my doc says, because I'm 46. Now you're 45. They really want me to get a colonoscopy. It used to be 54 years ago. There's something so much changed in me that I have to have it at 46. No, it hasn't, because I try to buy meat from local farmers. I don't eat a lot of fast food at all. So I think I'm fine, and I work out and do things. So I'll made a deal with you. I'll split it. I'll do it for 47 and a half. But the point of the matter is that my doc says it's the hormones in the meat, particular chicken. That's what he thinks. Chicken, pork, whatever. All the crap that they put in the meat through your digestive. Combine. Now, people focus on that. But what about if it's that with the crap in the bags of potato chips, the crap in the vegetables that they put on the vegetable? We don't know 100%. And we never study the totality of it. Okay, one favorite line I loved from a professor in one of the electives I took was, if it didn't have a mother, it didn't come from the ground, you probably don't want to eat it. Implying you want it to be as natural as possible. So it's the totality of things. Then you take in all the drugs we're taking. Is it, I've heard a couple people say that they thought maybe it's possibly like these IUDs, you throw it in, but maybe it's a little bit of everything in one. We don't know. And we got to figure out these answers so we can prevent it from happening again. So we can red flag things better in the future when something goes wrong, and so we can educate ourselves while keeping our freedoms instead of becoming a nanny state. All right. Personally, I would rather have be well informed, even if it involves paying a little bit more meat, because we're saving money on healthcare costs. Okay, and we're having a much healthier both mental and physical health society. So, anyway. That's my spiel on RFK. And you know what? If someone says, like Bill O'Reilly, like he made a comment, like he never backs up. He's won court cases, him and team, based on science. He's written books. Don't tell me he doesn't back it up. It's just Bill O'Reilly's just a freaking establishment old school hack who has no freaking clue what he's talking about. He's wrong on politics. He's wrong on economics. He's wrong on foreign policy. Anyway, I know he's a decent conservative long term, and it's fine and great history stuff, but he's just outdated. Anyway, I move on. So from RFK, but the effects are there about this steamrolling and what we're doing, and this administration is doing. So just the last 24 hours, a couple of these I want to throw out. Oh, I already did that one. Okay, so here we go. D.C. prosecutor Denise Chung resigns from U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. after being told to investigate Biden's climate spending. Head of Social Security has resigned over DOGE's activities. FDA Food Division head Jim Jones resigns from NBC. His position is responsible for keeping America food safe. The resignation comes after RFK Jr. took over Health and Health Services. So here's the question. Why did he resign? Well, the one is Social Security. The new DOGE was there. She saw all the numbers. She's out. Bye. Good riddance. I wonder how you were involved or what you were covering up or what kickbacks you were getting. Same with the FDA guy. Okay? It's ridiculous. This is good. If you're up and up and you're like, hey, we could have done this better and this better, but this is just a little, what we think is just a little bit of mishap. We try to improve every year and there's really no whatever, then great, stay. Like, what's the fear? You might learn something. You might study something that you already know the answer to and be like, well, if you knew this, then why didn't you say? No, so let's jump ship, And that's the effect of these things and moving quickly. All right, where are we at now? All right, so we all know about the 60 Minutes interview where, I love this, CBS is posting an insult to crime. German prosecutors, yes. CBS, is it a crime to repost a lie? German prosecutors, yes. Insulting someone is not a crime, and criminalizing speech is going to put real strain on European-U.S. relationships. This is Orwellian, and everyone in Europe and the U.S. must reject this lunacy. Well, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And what's it with Megan Brennan about free speech was the cause of the Holocaust? No, it was ethno-nationalist leftists called Nazis, also known as the NSDAP, which is the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Okay? And they were ultra-nationalists from an ethnic trend and believed in leftist government, the power of the benefit of the state, and not just the state, but ethnically based as well. And they used corporations and censorship to impose their power. What Germany is doing now. And they don't recognize it, whether it's the fear of their World War II past or whatever, and don't realize what's going on because they don't want people commenting about the illegal immigration problem going on, among other cultural issues that are important, the globalists diluting them in Germany, that they go overboard and just throw it out. For democracy. No. You don't like to be, and then who is the decider of what's true or what's not? Who is the decider? And every time you put the government up there, they lie. Rand Paul said in an interview when they were doing that on the Senate panel, when they were putting up the czar of misinformation, the Biden administration, Ron Paul's flat out, the United States government is the biggest purveyor of lies ever. So you cannot put them in charge, nor you can put any government in charge. Okay, that's the media is supposed to create accountability for these people, not put them in power to decide what's true or what's not. And now look at how many things just recently weren't true. Russia collusion included Russia, not true. 51 letters said Hunter's laptop's not real. That was a lie. You take the COVID vaccine, you're gonna get, you will never get COVID. Another lie. As a matter of fact, the president, to the day, a year later of saying that, Biden got COVID. You can't make this shit up. And we're going to put them in control. Get the F out of here. Oh, what the heck? There we go. So this is Austria. Thousands of Austrians marched today for 14-year-old Alex, who was stabbed to death by an Afghan immigrant. Well, if you don't know it, because the last video I was telling you about how a lunatic jihadist ran a truck through a market in Munich, injuring and killing people. And the German people got outraged, etc. Now, just happened over the weekend in Austria. 5 people were stabbed by a Afghan immigrant, killing a 14-year-old boy named Alex. So the people here, they just had it. They've had enough of this already. Okay? And this is why we're getting polling like this for the elections in Germany that come up in On this Sunday, CDU 29 trending down, and this is an average of average polls. You already see one poll that's I saw they're at 27 off days. They're still at 21, but that's only a 6 point gap. Okay, but I think that my gut's telling me that off day there are shy off day voters out there, and I believe there are people swinging because I think the momentum is with them. I think with the events that are happening and everything going on, I think that they have a chance to get really close there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and the elections going forward. So here we go. Let's move on here. Zelensky out in cold as U.S. discusses Ukraine's fate with Russia. Okay. If you don't know, in Saudi Arabia today, they're meeting, the Russians, the United States are meeting there. But what if I understand, it's just very preliminary talks on Ukraine. But what also is going on is they're going to be talking about just beginning to start talking again. Remember, the last phone call that I know of publicly was made between the defense minister of Russia, Shoigu, and SecDef Austin. That was over 2 years ago. So there's no, is there an emergency back channel? Yes. But they're talking about, getting ambassadors and diplomats back into play, getting some sort of dialogue up, some little basic things in here. So, and it's not final decisions aren't being made in this meeting with Ukraine and everything like that, but it was more about U.S. and Russia engaging. Okay. Also, if you saw the interview with Kellogg, there was a British reporter. She asked two questions. Are the Ukrainians going to be out of discussions and the Europeans are? He's like, no, Ukrainians are going to be in the discussions. Europeans, yes, out. And they're like, oh, so why are they out? Well, guess what? It was Germany and France that brokered the Minsk Accords in 2015 and 2016 after Ukraine lost the war to the Russian-backed LPR, Luhansk People's Republic, and DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, in the original Ukraine war. It started in 2014. So they declared independence from after the Maidan coup, ousting Yanukovych. Okay? Lost. And that was a deal. Okay, now remember, Russia could have taken it then. They didn't. The two states were going to stay in Ukraine, and in that they were going to give in basic degrees of autonomy. They were going to be allowed to speak their Russian language and other things like that. And it never happened. It never happened. And we know from Merkel and others and other interviews since then that it was just time for NATO to buy time for Ukraine so they can rearm. Okay? And that's what it was all about. And there we are, February 2022. So, yeah, why should the Europeans be in there? First of all, they just proven, okay, that they are Orwellian. They censor people. Okay, they're authoritarian. Okay, in their actions, these governments. Now, until they shouldn't be there. Not only that, they should start taking care of their own security structure, their own lead. Okay, they should do a NATO, but the United States shouldn't be in their NATO. United States should say they should have their own European lead security. And how they set it up is their business. Okay? And we should be an ally with them. But we should not be doing the supporting role anymore. Because what we're doing is we are underwriting they pay 2%, if that, of their GDP on that. The other 2% goes to free education and free healthcare for the citizenry. We pay 4%. We don't get free healthcare. We don't get free education in the United States. Okay? Now, I'm saying I don't want their model, but just from a monetary dollar for dollar spent, that's it. We are underwriting their social welfare states because we provide the security. Now, yes, they do use our dollar, and they are our allies, but we are stronger. We are more technologically advanced. We are stronger economically. We are stronger industrially. And they have deindustrialized, particularly in Germany. They have higher unemployment rate. I'm not going to get in comparison, but the point of the matter is they should have that lead role, and we should have a backseat supporting role at best, especially as they develop some sort of logistical hubs and some sort of projection power and things like that. Okay? But right now, that's it. You shouldn't have it at. We've provided more funds to Ukraine. We've provided more weaponry to Ukraine. Okay? Which leads us to what I call the Waa Waa Party or pity party, however you want to call it. Okay? I went back to this one. Okay, Starmer's ready to send troops to Ukraine to defend peace deal. Okay, this man I hate more than anything. This guy, he's the worst. Well, he is hard left, authoritarian, censoring, he's arresting people for posts online, even letting pedophiles to do that. We all know about that. But what is the UK going to do? Now, this is, first of all, they're always yapping, talking about putting troops in there. What do they have? Their standing army 70,000, deployable 25,000. They already have some deployed to Romania with the United States there. Okay. They're going to be part of a peace deal. What are they going to do? Nothing. And you think the Russians are going to agree to the British, who have gave intelligence to shooting Storm Shadow missiles inside Russian proper territory, who has constantly given weapons, and the rhetoric out of UK has been the most aggressive against Russia. So there's no way they can have a deal for it, and it's just laughable. Okay, they barely have the tanks. They don't have the navy. They don't have the equipment because they're giving it away. They don't have the capacity to refill it. Would have to buy more from the United States. Okay, this is just where the United Kingdom is, and you're getting this pity party because they're meeting in Hungary. Yesterday. They met in Hungary yesterday. And why did they meet in Hungary yesterday? Because they're having a Waa Waa Party, the globalists of Europe, about it. So this guy here is the Hungarian foreign secretary, and he gave a speech at this meeting. Okay? We have to admit that in Europe, the parties that do not want peace are now joining forces. In Europe, the supporters of war are uniting. Today in Paris are meeting precisely those who in the last 3 years have been constantly adding fuel to the fire of war in Ukraine. These are the countries that are on the side of the war, that have supported the misguided strategy of sanctions in Europe. These are the countries that have continually escalated the war. Today in Paris, the sides that support the war are uniting. They are against peace. They are against U.S. President Donald Trump. They also want to do everything possible to prevent a peaceful resolution in the Ukrainian conflict. Okay? So they feel bad that they're being left out, okay, even though the negotiations really didn't even start. It's just basic foundations being met in Saudi Arabia. But they want to keep it going, okay, because it fuels their power. If everybody's in Russophobic land and whatever, they liked it the way it was under Biden. Hopefully these populist parties like AfD and National Rally and Vox can one day come into power, and we can have a relationship with those nations independently, just the way Hungary wants to, with Russia, and while being a member of NATO and Ukraine, because they don't buy the lies and the crap that's being fed to them. Okay, so you got, if you're NATO, you got to justify your institutions. If you're a European, you got to justify your institutions. Well, we're keeping you safe. We're doing this. We have American troops protecting us from those evil, big, bad Russians. Okay. So without knowing the history, with thinking that there's nothing happened before February of 2022, whatever. So that's it. But I think this will go into play. And remember, Russia's in the driver's seat, folks. Russia is in the driver's seat. All right. So there's one last thing I wanted to show you. Pose over this. Trump calls for Ukraine to hold presidential election as part of the peace deal. Says Zelensky is deeply unpopular after the civil war. So, I think the key thing with elections is that, see, Zelensky his term expired, okay, months ago, okay, and he said no elections, just canceled it. Remember, this is for democracy. Anyway, we offered to pay for it, $8 billion. No. Okay, so after banning church and journalists and taking over states, whatever, he's in there. But what the Russians are going to say, if we sign anything with him, a new person who replaces him could say, we don't recognize that treaty because Zelensky was an illegitimate president under our Constitution. And meanwhile, the Rada passed a bill that was signed into law with Zelensky that says he can negotiate with Russia. So he'll be violating his own law. So there are a lot of things that Russia's going to go and say, hey, that. And plus, they also know who's going to come behind Trump. Is it another country that's going to start pumping weapons into Ukraine again and building up the Ukrainian army, putting ultra-nationalists in power that subdue whatever territory is? So Russia's not going to allow those Russian people now under those ethnic Russians that are under captured territory in Zaporozhye, Kherson, Donetsk, and Lugansk go back to Ukraine. It is not going to happen. And they're not going to allow Russia to join NATO. So when you hear guys like Ruta and other dopes in the European Union and NATO, neocon, neolib land saying Ukraine's going to be in NATO, that just emboldens the Russians. They hear that. They see it. All right. And Putin sees a realistic guy in Trump. Now, people have always said, like, oh, Trump was strong. That's why Putin invaded. No, Putin didn't feel threatened by Trump. Trump wasn't interested. As a matter of fact, he probably didn't even know, like, that the Tennessee National Guard and others were training Ukrainian troops there. He was told Russia's a threat to Ukraine. He has since learned the history. He has since know who to trust and who not to trust. And he see who has been right over these last few years on issues and knowing that's a trusted source. And that's why they're in their inner circle now and people like Pompeo are not. Now, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better, like Gabbard in there. So, anyway, I just wanted to do that. So I'm going to keep an eye out on the polling for the German elections. If anything comes out good, whatever, I'll put it out. Again, keeping an eye on the battlefields. A couple more villages fell the last 2 days, like previous weekend when the big one was Toretsk. They're driving in to the northwest of Pokrovsk, towards Kupiansk, out of Drevka. That Ukrainian pocket is smaller, and Ukraine keeps losing more and more territory in Kursk. Russians probably got plus 70% of the territory back now. When you look at the agreed upon maps, that's what it looks like. So we'll keep an eye on what DOGE uncovers going forward, whether it's Social Security. And remember, they're going after the Pentagon next. They're not going after it. And listen, Republicans who love the military. This will only make the military more efficient and better. Okay? Because just like every other bureaucratic institution, it too can also be corrupt. Okay, big projects or kickbacks. I get out of this general as a 3-star. I then go work on a board at Raytheon or whatever BAE Systems or whatever defense contractor, Lockheed Martin. Okay, and that's all. I love this state. 44 4-stars today. 1.2 military. 12 million man military in height of World War II. We had 7 4-stars. There you go. Bureaucrats, department heads, whatever. Okay? It also affects how intelligence goes up to command, whatever. So there are inefficiencies there because we're buying things we don't need. We're also deploying troops where they shouldn't be, like the Tennessee National Guard. You think you're joining, to hurricane, flood, but you end up training someone in Ukraine. What? So to fulfill some, globalists, neoliberal ideal, that then, the money goes to the PAC goes to the NGO, and then, USAID, you end up in Ukraine, and the money goes back to the NGO donates it back to another PAC, and then it goes right into the coffers of somebody, or then goes to hire somebody or something to that effect. It's like money laundering. So anyway, that's that. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see how the Kash Patel vote goes. So I always keep up on things and try to post and repost on X, and you can find me there at Patriot Planner 1 and my getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like this video, please follow, like, and share. All right. Thank you very much, guys. And until my next video, have a great week.